Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another video from the Canal Sidings Model Railway channel. As you can see, since the last time I have now laid all three of the continuous tracks in. So looking at the three tracks there, the one at the top is the up main, the one in the middle is the down main, and the one at the bottom is the relief line, which will be the bi-directional line. They do go all around the room, but they are only pinned in temporarily, and in some places not pinned in at all. And they are very, very badly wired. There are not enough droppers, and I'm only using my power cab, which is miles away over in the other corner of the room now. And some of these tracks are actually powered from over there rather than over here. But there you go. DCC is not as hard to drive as some people try to make out it is. So what we've got is those three tracks, as I say, that go all around the room, and now up here is where I got stuck. Now, as you can see, there is a point on the down main, this one here, which actually goes nowhere. And I did mention some time ago that I was missing a left-hand Pico small radius point. They have to be small radius because they've got to fit between here and leave me some space to put my end pieces on, which have to be pieces of track. That's just the way I'm going to lay the points, so we'll sort that out later. But I did say that I was going to build a Pico point, which I did, and here it is. And basically it is a copper clad point with some Pico code 100 rail, but oh my, how difficult it is to build. The problem that I had is that this Pico rail is so heavy that, I mean thick, you know, in that way and heavy. As you can see, the web is the bottom web is really wide, and that is so heavy that it is really difficult to work. The crossing was a hell of a job to get right, because there is so much material to remove to make a crossing, to make a V, I should say. And this end of the point is really difficult too, to get it so it'll change easily, and to get it so that the point rails, the point blades will actually sit into the stock rails properly. And these rails are pivoted from there all the way to here. This is the last place that they're fixed, and they are really stiff. So I'm not happy with it. It does work. I've actually put track on the ends of it and run stock over it, and it works, but I'm not happy. And I'm not happy because, for a start, there's going to be a hell of a lot of strain on the servo that has to drive this end. It is just so stiff. It's not surprising that Pico actually don't use code 100 rail here at all, but they bend up sheet steel, and also that in the middle around about here, well, it's about here actually, I think, that they actually put a joint in the blades and pivot them. But it was an experience, and it tells me, no, don't build copper clad track using code 100 rail. It just isn't worth it. Using code 80 or code 75 rail, it's a doddle, especially the bullhead stuff. But with flat with flat bottom code 100 rail, no. So it was an experience, but I'm not going to bother with it. The reason I said I'd build one is because Pico had shut down and nobody was selling anything. Well, most people still haven't got any new stuff in stock. As far as I'm aware, no one has. But there are a few appearing on eBay, not at silly prices. So I managed to pick one up for the standard price, 13 quid, including postage. So I thought that wasn't bad, and that should be here in the next couple of days. As soon as that comes here, then I can think about exactly where this crossover is going to go, and if I can have this distance between the rails. This one is set at standard Pico 50mm centres. This one here is set at Hornby 67mm centres. The reason for that is that nearly always on the railway you have the two main lines, and then secondary lines or a pair of secondary lines are separated from them by a larger space than the 6 foot, which is the normal distance we talk about here. It's not actually 6 foot, but there you go. That's what the railwaymen call it. This is the 4 foot, this is the 6 foot, and then this is a bigger space. It doesn't actually do what I hoped it would do, which was allow me to get masts in from here and here, because I'm still too close to this rail with the mast for that. So I'm still going to have to put portals. Are they portals or are they headspans? No, I think they're portals, which are the ones that the scale model scenery make, which are actually steel structures from which everything is hung, rather than a couple of posts with wires across from which everything is hung. Have a look at what is out there. Great sources of inspiration for the overhead and all the infrastructure that goes with it are some of the modern day cab ride videos. YouTube is full of them, and there's some really excellent ones. To have a look at some really good ones, go to Don Coffey's channel. He does a lot of, he does some, not a lot of, he does some freight work, and it's really good going on the freight lines, because you get to see bits of the railway that you would never see as a passenger. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. That is, they're still, all of them are a great inspiration for infrastructure in general of the modern railway and what overhead equipment looks like, and all sorts of things like that. So that is something I need to do and work out exactly where they're going. I may have to push these closer together so that these points end up closer together, because the further away I pull it here, the further this end of the point here goes from here. It's just a geometrical problem. So that's something to sort out. This point here should be fitted in, but I forgot it. I just thought, well, I won't bother with this, I'll just put a bit of rail in, and then whoops, I should have put that point in there. So it's not there because I forgot it. And we'll just move away around a little bit more. I'll move the camera and show you the progress so far on the bridges section. So here we are at the section where the bridges go. As you can see, not much scenic progress has been made on it, and I still haven't fitted these side pieces here onto the double track bridge. The reason for that is that I have a little bit of a clearance issue under here to the bridge, where I may need to put some wires if I end up having to put signals on the bridge. Not sure whether that will happen or not yet. On this pair, on the inside track, sorry, on the single track, the bi-directional track, there's plenty of clearance at the end. I can easily put a rod, a plastic rod or a brass rod with the signal cables in if I need to. But that I couldn't do over there. I have to put the rod and those in at the same time because it's a bit tight. So that's the only reason that they're not there. It's my fault. I made the centre reservation, the planked centrepiece between the tracks on the double track bridge, just a little bit too wide. But I'm not about to rebuild it, so we'll leave it as it is. That centrepiece is actually in, but the outer pieces aren't yet. As you can see, I've also put the screens underneath. Don't know how much of the screens you can see. Oh, yes, you can see the tops of them anyway. If I just tip you down a little bit, you'll be able to see the fact that my screens are in there. And the reason for that is because this is actually a lift out section, and I need to be able to get to it to lift it out. What I'd been doing was putting my fingers under here like this and getting my thumb in there and just lifting it. Get my fingers well under. But I can't do that anymore because the screens are going to be in the way. It is something I'd thought about and wondered if I would be able to lift it from the ends. Well, that's not going to work either. So what I've had to do is add these handles, which are metal kitchen cupboard handles. That's what they're sold as. They're 6 inches long and they're pretty strong. And I've just added these couple of pieces of pine here. I've braced them. You might be able to see that brace there, and there's a bit of a brace here, and it's braced down the back there, and this one's got a brace here and it's braced down the back. So they should be strong enough. They are certainly solid, that's for sure, against everything, but they don't weigh too much. So that the heaviest parts of the handles actually, because they're metal, as I say. But they shouldn't interfere with the scenic work. And I do have a fascia panel that is going to go right across here, which obviously will be cut out to the shape of the landform. But at the moment I can't cut that fascia because I haven't actually put the landform in yet. But I had to cut it out as a piece that goes all the way along here and as high as the bridge, because I needed to drill the holes in it for where the handles go, so that I can simply put the handles back on once I put the fascia on. It would have been impossible to find those holes there now if I not drilled the front and then just offered it up and hoped I could find them. Can't get a drill in from the back. That one's behind there. These are behind here, and these are too close to the base, so there's no way of finding it out. The reason the handles are not straight and they're on an angle, it actually is quite a comfortable angle, but there's not enough height from there to the bottom there to get all 4 screws in. So I had to put them on an angle. And I tried to measure the angles, but it turns out that although this and this handle are supposed to be a pair, a matching pair, there is about 5 or 6 millimeters difference in the length from there to there of this one to that one, which caused me a lot of trouble, because what I did was from this datum line I drilled the top holes where I wanted them, and then tried to swing these around to put this at the same distance from the bottom in both cases, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't do it. If I got the distances the same, the handles were all at a different angle. So anyway, in the end what I did was I guessed at the angle, and I can actually get a grip on those like that, put my hands right towards the top, and I will be able to lift it out, and that's quite a comfortable angle. You can imagine that that way around might have been less comfortable, but this way around is okay. Can't lift it at the moment because the tracks up here and up here are stopping you from lifting it. Well, it's not that, that's the bridge joint. The joint at the end of the baseboard, the tracks aren't cut at both cases. And I can't just cut them and say, oh, well, we'll be all right, because I will sever the power from that side. So there you go. So that's that section. And really, the next job on that, apart from the track and the infrastructure planning, which is I'll come back to later, the next job on that is to actually start the scenery. And I can do a lot of that down on my workbench. I don't have to reach across here. So that's that. Something else that it demonstrates to me, I don't know how much you can see through there. Yes, you can. If you look towards the back in there and in there, it is really dark. Now this blind is supposed to represent the blue sky, and it's not doing a very good job under the bridge. I don't know anywhere that, generally speaking, we would get massive shadows on the blue sky. So what I've got to somehow do along the back bottom edge is put some lights, and they need to be daylight white lights, so that you can kill that darkness at the back of the bridge and make it actually bright, and I think it will look much better then. I could try putting a light up the top that shines down this way, but I'm not convinced I can get it far enough back, and I'm not really convinced I want something else crossing the window, but there you go. We'll see what happens with that. So that's almost all of it. Just one more thing. I did allude to the possibility that I was going to have my programming track at a low level here, still crossing the river on a low level bridge and disappearing into a couple of tunnels. Well, this end demonstrates to me that that would have been difficult, especially having to have put these here, but I could have made it disappear into a tunnel here probably and just stopped it there and run it across. But because I had to put the bridges on that angle so that I could get this end to be able to line up with the rest of my track, what I've had to do is abandon the idea of a programming track sitting on here. And I was really quite disappointed in that, but that's the way it goes. And I was back to a programming track on a plank of wood, sat on the bench all the time. That was always a problem. I like to be able to get down low to see my programming track. I like to be able to get it at eye level, because you can see all sorts of things going on then with the first build of your loco. And I can't do that when it's down on the bench. You end up trying to prop it up on lumps of wood but that was where I was until I remembered something else. And I'm going to swing the camera around now and we'll talk about the next bit. Okay, well, we've just moved along a bit now. So we're at the end of the bridge section. You can still see this end of the bridge with its handle. And if you remember, this baseboard here, this one, finished about there. So it was only that wide. Well, it's this one actually, finished about there and it was only that wide. And that meant that this track couldn't get to the bridge. So I said I had to add a piece into here, and my intention was to add it from there and run it round there and back into this track here and back into this track further round the bend. You can't see them out round there. But what I decided to do in the end was extend it the full length along here, and I'll just spin you round slowly, and I have now extended. This is an extension all the way along to there. I'm just going to zoom you in a bit, out a bit I mean, and we go back to there. Right, that's just my marker to show that it's in the picture, because I'm good at missing it. Here there's always been a point, and it used to go off there and into a board that was out here, which was my Steam MPD when the layout was 1950s based. And what I'd intended to do, and that hangs off the edge of the baseboard, I have to say, the edge of the baseboard is here and this corner of the point hangs off, and it had a little extension to about here, and I was just going to leave that, excuse me, I was just going to leave that as a disused track, and the point was disused as well, because I didn't want to pull it out. It turns out that if I made this wider all the way down, that I could use that point, and here where these locos are standing, I could suddenly have a programming track that wasn't actually that far away from where it had been before. Okay, I can't sit in front of the screen and operate it, but I can stand like this now and look at a loco on it and see how well it's running, etc., which you can't do when it's way down low on the baseboard, not unless you've got it right near the edge. So this now has become my programming track. There are 4 locos standing on it at the moment. They're not ready to be programmed. In fact, they already are DCC fitted. But I have put in a couple of rail joiners here which are insulating. So these rails are not ever connected to the main track. And what that then allowed me to do is, I'll swing you back round, not too fast, just here, it allowed me to increase the size of the extension just a little on this corner, so I could put this straight panel in here, which is made out of the same material as this, straight panel in here, and fit what you see here. Now what you actually see here is, this is an NCE power cab panel, what's known as a PCP, and the power cab plugs into this socket here. This allows you to plug in other cabs if you want to have 2 cabs when you're running a power cab system. So if I plug my power cab in, which is actually sitting here at the moment, this is my power cab, okay, and I'm going to plug that into there. What you'll see is this will come alive because I have the power to it, and eventually this light comes on. There you go. Don't know if you can actually see that light. You might not be able to. Let's pull that out of the way. You should now be able to see that there's a red light down there. Do you know, I can't tell in the camera whether it's visible or not. Anyway, you should be able to see that there is a red light just here, which is on, which shows you that the power cab has track power. And additional to that, I've got track power coming out of the back of it, which will eventually go to this switch, and this switch will allow that track power to be switched either to this track here, or for this track to be switched to be powered by this track, by the main power. So this can be a siding or a programming track. It's nothing out of the ordinary, it's, people do it all the time, but when it's over here it's a programming track, and when it's over here it is actually just a siding on the main layout. And I shall make it look a bit overgrown, but it's a scenic programming track. Now additionally, what I need is this panel, and that is a NCE, it says it on it, NCE UCT, which I think is universal, oh, I don't know, but it's for extending the cab bus. So you could plug it into the rear of this panel, there is a connector, and you could plug into here, so you can extend and put this somewhere else around the railway to make the power cab actually, the power cab you can't move because you kill everything, but if you had a secondary controller, you could plug it in here and join these two together at the back, and that would allow you to have somebody somewhere else on a small layout. That's what it's for, but it's not only for a power cab, it will work for the bigger NCE systems. Now normally I use what is known as an NCE SB5. That is my DCC command station and booster, which I use on my main layout, and that is 5 amps. The power cab's only supposed to be 2 amps, which quite honestly is probably enough for what I need anyway, but it's not versatile enough. The SB5 is more versatile in several ways. Nothing to do with what you can actually do with its front panel, because you can plug a power cab, when plugged into an SB5, becomes a Power Pro. So you get these that don't have the power cab's internals that say NCE Power Pro, and they are specifically for plugging into their bigger systems, and that's what this can do. But the other thing that you need to be able to do is I need to be able to plug in my computer system to the power cab or to the main layout. So what I've got is I've got this connected all the way back via the cab bus, all the way round to where my SB5 is, which is actually pretty much behind where you're looking at the moment, on the other side of the room. So I extend it all the way round the room like that. And it's only the cab bus, it's not the DCC bus, it's just the cab information. So when you press buttons to do things, they go to the command station, which interprets them, turns them into DCC and puts them out to the booster and then to the track. And you can plug into these the NCE USB, which is a little board, which in my case is up under there now, stuck at the back there. You probably can't see it. You can't see it, but you can barely see where I'm pointing. And that will be connected down to my computers, which are on the bench. And this wire here comes from that NCE USB connection. So what I can do with this is I can either have it in the main layout, or I can shift it over to there, if I can only get hold of it properly, and plug it in there, and it's now connected to the power cab. And I can do that, and that is exactly what I used to do on my old layout, and I can do that when I'm programming. I'll leave it in there for now. So that's what that's all about. And I can plug my power cab controller into here if I need to use it as a pro cab to control the main layout. So that's what that panel is for mainly. While I was building it, I realised that if I put another connector in the middle, that's this one, and connected that, just 2 wires of it, to the power cab's output, then I could plug one of these into it. This is just a, so that's only a weight falling down. This is just a 4-pin DIN plug, and I can plug that into there. Well, I could, if I could actually get hold of it and put it the right way round to plug it in there. There we go. Now that then allows me, wherever this switch is, so if it's over there it's operating this layout, but it allows me to use the power cab with this cable, which at the moment is being used to power all this lot, and that at the moment is how I'm powering the main layout. There's no SB5 anywhere. But that also allows me to use it on my circular test track that I have sometimes on my bench that you have seen. You saw me demonstrating the different ways of trying to make braking work, and the disasters that you can get with some makes of DCC decoder when you try things like brake on DC. Anyway, that's another story, and you can watch that video, which is about 4 or 5 videos ago now. This is going to be, I think, number 81, so that will be in the 70s. I can't remember what it is. If I think of it when I'm editing, I'll try and put a hint up on the top of the screen, but I'm terrible at remembering things like that when I'm doing my editing. I'm not I'm not a very good videoer, really. My videography skills aren't brilliant, so I never promise that I'll do any of that. Just have a look back and you'll find the one that shows the circular track, and I'm running locos round it, and you can see what goes on a bit. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. That is pretty much the end of what I've got to say. Now that I've got my power cab plugged in and I've got it connected to my track, we can actually have a running session. So what I'm going to do is just have 3 trains running round, move the camera to 3 or 4 different positions and just watch a couple of run-bys. Right at the end we'll do one more thing, which is we will use this little beast, which is something I picked up recently, which is a GoPro Hero Session camera, and it just about is small enough to sit on a 00 chassis. If I had a Lomac it would sit on that, but I don't like Lomacs, they derail too easily. Well, I find they do anyway. So I'm actually mounting it on an old brake van chassis, and I just sit it on and right at the end of the video we'll have a couple of runs round with that and all the 3 trains running, so that you'll be able to actually see it at track level. We'll go through the bridge. It'll be running on this track because it's the best one to run it on. And just as a little end to the video. So I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to say thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video, and I hope you enjoy this little bit of running. Bye. Mm-hmm.